everyone, Pandora here with Integrative Gardening, and today I'm going to restock my salad greens level on my indoor kitchen garden. So I already have this one that was potted up from before, and this is a mini romaine. The lettuce variety is called Paris. And to start these, I just put a little bit of core, just plain cocoa core, and put one seed in each. And to get those started, I then used a heat mat and put it under a dome. And then once those germinated and they got tall enough, I put them into a flat like this. So this flat is a combination of two different potting mixes. I use one potting mix that has a lot of perlite, and it has a lot of immediately available fertilizer, and the perlite makes it nice and light. And then I mix it with another potting mix that has more of a composty texture, so that the fertilizer in that one is more nourishing over the long term. So I like that combination that I'm doing there. So yeah, that is how I do my lettuce starts. I used to put them in tall pots, but I found for the top level here, because I like to put my lights lower down so that they're not kind of shining into the kitchen, it works better for me for putting them in the shallow flats. And it's also easy to water because I can just pour the water in a little bit right here, and that kind of soaks it up from the bottom. So that one I have, that one was already ready to go, and I have room here for 4 of these flats, so I'm going to be potting up 3 other types of things today to fill up that rack. Now this one here, I have a shallow bottom tray, and then I have a bigger tray with the holes on the bottom here. And this is the same combination of the 2 soils that I have here. And what I'm going to be doing with this one is potting up so that I have baby salad greens, so it's kind of a cut and come again. So I will spray the top, get that nice and moist, and actually if I use this one, it's a little quicker. It's kind of like a foliar sprayer. You just get the top layer nice and moist. And in the first place, this potting mix is already, has a little bit of moisture to it. It's not quite sticky so that when you grab it, it stays together, but it's just to the point of where it barely kind of falls apart. And that's so that in the bottom layer, it's not too wet, because I find when I get it too wet all the way through, that's when I kind of get the fungus and the mold issues. This is a very kind of humid climate lately that I live in, so that's kind of important for me to do that. So I'm going to be putting this red salad bowl lettuce. I have a little bit left over from one company, and then this is a newer seed packet. I'm not going to put these too close together. Where are you? There you are. So I want them to be kind of maybe an inch or so apart. I'm not going to really measure, but I'm just going to get it sprinkled in there so that it's not too dense, but it has enough density so that it's you know, not a thin crop, because I'm going to cut and come again, so they can be in there pretty thick. Interesting enough, these seeds are an entirely different color. Those were kind of whitish. So, red salad bowl lettuce. Red salad bowl lettuce. This is going to be a different variety. So I'm going to keep those separate and see what happens. Now the thicker you get these in here, you know, the more you're gonna like cut them when they're a little bit smaller. I like to cut them when they're a little bit bigger, and I use some and then they get bigger and then I use some. So that's kind of what I'm aiming for there. So we're gonna put a spray over this one. Get those nice and soaked and ready to go. There we go. So that's about it. I am going to put this on a heat mat and put a dome over it just for the very first part of it sprouting. I find lettuce does pretty good, at least in my house. My house is kind of warm without the heat mat, but I'm just going to start with that for now. And so that's the lettuce, and I'll be right back. I'm going to bring in a couple more things to show you. Okay, I'm back. I'm going to be putting in some microgreens and putting cabbage and Mizuna. So what I like to do is I use a potting mix underneath, and then I have this cocoa core, this plain cocoa core that's on the top. The potting mix underneath is one that has almost like a composty texture to it. So first, this is a little bit moist, kind of crumbly. I don't want it to be too wet. I don't want to encourage any fungus or mold. I'm just going to spray this down. Yeah, so not too wet here. Just want to moisten that. We're also going to spray it after I put the seeds in. That's good enough for that. And I'm going to start out with the Mizuna. This is sort of a, it's like, kind of like a mustard type plant. It doesn't, it's not as spicy as mustard though. It's kind of nice and light. So I'm just going to put 2 tablespoons. You can just put these in your hand and then sprinkle them in. When I do that, I'll put 1 tablespoon, do half, and then another half. But I kind of like using these kind of sprinkling method. It kind of distributes it a little more evenly. Also, if you have that nice and pressed down, that helps so that you don't get these big wells of seeds in batches. There we go. And we're going to wet that down again. There we go. And we put another tray on top. So again, we have a bottom tray, the tray with the drainage holes, and then that tray on top. So I like to keep them dark until they're a few days germinated, and then I take the top off and put them under the light. So I'm going to put them in here, but I won't turn the lights on in this section. Should probably take that label off that says kohlrabi. Let's see, this doesn't have a label? No. Okay, so I can label these later. Let's get that tamped down, especially around the edges there. There we go. It's about kind of moist, not too wet. And then get that sprayed down. So this one you do have to pump it and then hold your thumb down like that. Just all depends on what works better for you. If you like the pump sprayer, that works well too. Okay, so for the cabbage, I'm going to do 2 tablespoons. You can do anywhere from 1 to 4 tablespoons, depending on how thick you want these. If you want them to be, you know, growing up a little bit taller, more closely into plants, then you would put 1 tablespoon. And for 4, they're going to get dense pretty quickly, so you would cut them off when they're very short. 2 usually, for most of the brassicas, 2 tablespoons works usually best for me. Sometimes I'll take the Mizuna and grow those up a little taller, so I do 1 tablespoon. But this seems to work pretty well. This one too, yeah, it's a little heavier in the hand when you get that water in there, and it takes more, when it gets more empty, it takes more pumps to make the water go. Some of these sprayer bottles are not, you know, very good. This one's a professional sprayer, so, you know, it tends to last a little bit longer that way. Of course, when you're tipping it up, it loses the water from the bottom. If you make it too heavy, it's kind of heavy in your hand. So there we go. There is that. So that's my cabbage. And then I just take that and put it right on top of the other one. Get them all lined up together. And then sometimes on the top piece I'll put a heavy plate or something so that kind of makes it so the light doesn't leak around there. So there you have it. I have on the far end, I have my heat mat with my baby salad greens that I just started, and that has the humidity dome. Then I have my lettuce with the four or five mini head lettuce that will get, you know, pretty big. And for those, I just kind of cut the leaves off, and then they just keep growing and making the romaine head. Then I have my two microgreens here stacked up, and then these two, once they get going, they will fit nicely right here. Now, if this were all full and I had something that was about to be harvested, I could just take these and put these anywhere because they don't need the light yet. So there you have it, filling up my salad greens level in the indoor kitchen. Thank you so much for watching today.